to keep me from fighting my brother over the family inheritance. My relatives sold me off to a wealthy family in a marriage meant to ward off bad luck. On my very first day, I witnessed the entire spectacle of the heiress's violent breakdown. The servants trembled as they brought her medication, but I remained unfazed, even picking up a chair she had kicked over and calmly sitting down. The butler, Mr. Wallace, couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you afraid?" I answered calmly, "She's my wife. Why should I be afraid of her?" Hearing this, Mr. Wallace shot me a contemptuous look, thinking to himself that this new son-in-law was certainly quick to get into character, calling her wife so easily. Still, marrying a woman like that was worse than being a bachelor for life. The medicine was brought over quickly, but the new maid didn't dare go near the mad woman, terrified she'd be beaten to death before she could even administer the dose. Mr. Wallace didn't dare approach either, choosing instead to just curse at his subordinates for being useless. I suddenly spoke up, "Give the medicine to me." The maid handed it over as if she'd been relieved of a hot potato, a look of immense relief on her face. Holding the bowl, I said, "All of you can leave. I'll take care of her." Mr. Wallace tried to protest, but I cut him off. "Since she's my wife, it's only natural that I can take good care of her. Get out, and please close the door on your way." Mr. Wallace was furious, thinking, "Fine, if you're not afraid to die, then it's all on you. Don't come crying to us when that lunatic roughs you up." And with that, the butler led the two maids out of the room. The moment the door clicked shut, I turned and poured the medicine down the toilet. As soon as the medicine was brought in, I had detected a faint, sour stench hidden beneath the strong herbal aroma. This unique smell came from miasma vine, a rare plant found only in remote parts of Southeast Asia. Prolonged consumption causes symptoms of madness, eventually leading to a complete breakdown of the body and death, and almost no one in the country could recognize it. It seemed the Hamilton family's troubles ran deeper than I'd imagined. About half an hour later, Chloe Hamilton finally collapsed onto the bed. I walked over unhurriedly to check her pulse. Her symptoms were exactly as I'd suspected, and she was already in the advanced stages. If left untreated, she would be dead within a month. I studied Chloe's face. I had to admit, she was breathtakingly beautiful, the kind of woman men would kill for. What on earth could have brought her to such a wretched state? Her wrists and ankles were chafed and bleeding from the iron chains she had struggled against. I took out the key I had swiped from Mr. Wallace and unlocked her shackles. After giving her a pill, I felt the back of her head, and my fingers found something thin and metallic. With a firm tug, I pulled out a long silver needle. Chloe let out a soft groan of pain, but the color in her face visibly improved. The needle was tarnished, indicating it had been embedded in her skull for a long time. Truly vicious. Next, I adjusted her into a more comfortable sleeping position and thoughtfully tucked her in. In the evening, a servant brought several sets of clothes. They were all designer brands, though not the most exclusive labels. I didn't hesitate to pick out a shirt I liked, took a shower, and changed. When I emerged, my entire appearance and demeanor were transformed. Just then, Mr. Wallace came looking for me, barging right in without knocking, clearly showing he had no respect for me. I reminded him coolly, "Mr. Wallace, remember to knock next time." He dismissed my comment. "The young master, Leo, is back from school. He heard we have a new addition to the family and wants to see you." When he saw me remain on the sofa reading with no intention of moving, he urged me again. I replied lazily, "If my brother-in-law wants to see me, he should come here himself. It's not proper for the elder to go to the younger." Mr. Wallace chuckled at my words. "Sir, it's one thing to put on airs in front of us servants, but do you have any idea who Leo is? He's the son of Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton, a true master of this house. How dare you ask him to come see you?" I turned a page in my book, replying nonchalantly, "If he doesn't want to come, that's fine by me. I don't particularly want to see him either." Mr. Wallace couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Fine, fine. You want to be difficult? We'll see how Leo deals with you. He's the little terror of the Hamilton family. No one dares to cross him." With that, he stormed off in a huff. I finally put down my book and stood up, not because the butler's final words had scared me, but because I saw Chloe's eyes were open. Her gaze was still a bit hazy, but unlike before, when she would wake up screaming and flailing, she was now quiet. She stared at the ceiling for a long moment before her eyes shifted and her gaze fell upon me. "You must be tired from lying down for so long. How about you sit up for a bit?" I said. But Chloe didn't move or speak. Like a marionette, she allowed me to help her up and sit her on the edge of the bed. I looked at her, satisfied with her progress. She was recovering well. Though she was still a bit dazed, there was no rush. She would be back to her old self soon enough. The butler, who already disliked me, seized the opportunity to badmouth me to Leo Hamilton, exaggerating every detail. As expected, Leo was furious. "I wanted to see him, I was doing him a favor, and he dares to say he doesn't want to see me? Does he really think he's my brother-in-law now? He never liked coming up to the 5th floor. Chloe had always been too cold and arrogant, never giving him the time of day. After Chloe went mad and became terrifying, he had even less reason to visit. But today he was truly seeing red. When Leo angrily shoved the door open, ready to teach me a lesson, he was stunned to see Chloe sitting on the edge of the bed. "Chloe, you're awake?" His relationship with his sister was distant, and he didn't know much about her condition. The moment Mr. Wallace saw Chloe sitting up, he assumed she was about to have another episode. When he noticed her shackles were gone, his face turned pale with fright. How did Miss Hamilton's chains get unlocked? Mr. Wallace frantically fumbled in his pocket for the key, only to find it empty. I dangled the key in front of him. "Looking for this? You dropped it in here earlier." I saw my wife's wrists and ankles were all cut up, so I unlocked the chains for her. Mr. Wallace's face turned livid with rage. "You actually took off Miss Hamilton's shackles?" I feigned confusion and retorted, "My wife isn't a criminal. Why should she be chained up?" Mr. Wallace said urgently, "Didn't you see what a menace she is when she has an episode? Even with the chains, no one dares get close. Without them, it's even worse." The thought of Chloe's frenzied state made him anxious to leave. He grabbed Leo's arm. "Young master, we have to go. When she gets like this, she doesn't recognize anyone." Leo hadn't yet grasped the danger. He was just furious at my insolence and the fact that I had ignored him when he arrived. "So what if my sister's awake? She's still out of her mind. You really think she can back you up? Let me tell you something. My dad only brought you in because he's superstitious and believes some nonsense about a good luck marriage can cure her. The truth is, this family doesn't give a damn about you. You're nothing more than a glorified caretaker for my sister." As he spoke, his eyes fell on the shopping bags on the stool. Mr. Wallace quickly explained that Mrs. Hamilton had them bought, fearing my shabby clothes would be an embarrassment. Leo sneered. "Humph, he's just a servant. Why does he need such nice clothes? My mother is too kind." "Mr. Wallace, didn't you say your son's birthday is coming up? You can have those clothes." The butler's face lit up. They were designer clothes, worth a good amount of money if sold. He wanted to grab them but was wary of the mad Chloe, so he said to me, "Sir, could you please bring those bags over to me?" I glanced at him without a word, obediently picked up the shopping bags, and even gathered the 2 items that had fallen out. Mr. Wallace smirked, reaching out to take them, but I spun around and placed all the bags squarely on Chloe's lap. Leo's expression darkened. "What do you think you're doing?" I replied calmly. "My brother-in-law wants them, so of course I shouldn't refuse. But since I'm now Chloe's husband, it's best to get her approval on these matters." Leo scoffed. "My sister is out of her mind. She can't answer you. You think she can make decisions for you? Humph, so you won't bring them over? Fine, I'll get them myself," the young master declared angrily. Mr. Wallace tried to hold him back, but Leo, oblivious to the danger, rushed forward, grumbling, "Don't think you can use my sister as a shield." "My sister." Before he could finish, the sharp sound of a slap echoed as a hand struck his face. Leo was stunned. He looked from the vacant-eyed Chloe to me. "You dare to hit me?" I said innocently. "Your sister did it." I then shot a reproachful glance at Chloe. "Honey, really, it's just a few clothes. Was it necessary to strike your own brother?" At that moment, Chloe's eyes were slightly open, her gaze distant. From Leo's angle, he couldn't see her expression clearly. In disbelief, he turned to the butler. Mr. Wallace grimaced. "Young master, it happened so fast, I didn't see it either." But Leo wasn't about to let it go. As he opened his mouth to argue, a sharp pain shot through the back of his knee, and he collapsed, kneeling at my feet. I couldn't help but laugh. "Brother-in-law, even though I'm your senior, there's no need for such a formal greeting. This isn't the olden days." I glanced at Chloe beside me. "He's your brother, after all. No need to be so rough on him." Leo was seething with rage. Mr. Wallace was the first to react, quickly pulling him away. "Young master, Miss Hamilton seems particularly off today. We should go. There will be plenty of other opportunities to deal with that punk." Even without the butler's urging, Leo didn't dare cause any more trouble. The pain in his knee was gone, replaced by a complete numbness that spread through his entire leg. He couldn't even stand, allowing Mr. Wallace to drag him away. The incident with Leo didn't bother me in the slightest. After helping Chloe lie back down, I gave her another pill, and she fell into a deep sleep once more. I murmured to the sleeping woman, "You're not mad that I hit your brother, are you? If you are, I'll just have to turn you back into a lunatic." In her sleep, Chloe's eyelashes fluttered, as if she had heard me, or perhaps not. Leo had wanted to complain to his parents, but his father was out of town and his mother was nowhere to be found. He had no one to back him up. Leo's leg remained numb, and fearing it might be permanently damaged, he had Mr. Wallace take him to the hospital. They ran a battery of tests, but couldn't find anything wrong. The next day, his leg was inexplicably fine again. Meanwhile, Laura, the stepmother, had been playing mahjong all night. She only heard her son was in the hospital at dawn and rushed over in a panic. When she was told he'd been kicked by a rampaging Chloe, her expression changed instantly. "You're saying Chloe is awake?" She glared furiously at Mr. Wallace. "Leo might not know the situation with his sister, but you do. Who told you to take him up there?" Laura didn't even give the butler a chance to explain. "What do you have to say for yourself? Can't you see how frightened the young master is? And you still dare to make excuses. Forget about your bonus this month, and if you screw up again, you can get out of the Hamilton house for good." After scolding the butler, Laura turned to her son. "I've told you not to go to the 5th floor. Why don't you listen? What's so interesting about that mad woman? When she has an episode, she doesn't recognize anyone. You were lucky this time. What if you had been seriously injured?" Instead of comfort, Leo received a lecture from his mother, which only made him feel more aggrieved. "Who wanted to see that lunatic? I just heard Dad got her a husband for that good luck ritual. I was curious to see what kind of pathetic man would marry into a family for money, especially to a crazy woman. He's a nobody. To be honest with you, your sister is beyond saving." Dr. Evans said she has less than a month left. Leo was shocked. "Mom, are you saying Chloe is going to die?" Laura realized she had spoken out of turn but didn't seem to care much. "Well, now you know. Just keep it to yourself. Your father feels guilty, that's all. He just wanted to give her a husband in name, so she wouldn't die so alone and pathetic. As for that punk, we'll just find an excuse to get rid of him when the time comes. And you're actually getting worked up over a guy like that." Hearing this, Leo finally felt a little better. The weather today was perfect, not too hot or too cold, just incredibly pleasant. Even Chloe's complexion seemed a bit brighter. When I fed her breakfast this morning, she knew to open her mouth on her own, and her eyes stayed fixed on me, no longer vacant like yesterday. I helped her into her wheelchair and asked softly, "Has it been a long time since you've been outside for some fresh air?" Chloe slowly turned her head to look out the window. I understood immediately. "Then let's go for a walk in the garden. It will be good for your recovery." For 3 whole years, Chloe had not set foot outside her room on the 5th floor. When we came out, the household staff were stunned. Mr. Wallace wanted to intervene but was too afraid, so he quickly called Laura. Laura's voice was cold over the phone. "Don't do anything for now. I'm on my way back. And call Dr. Evans. Tell him to come over." Originally, Laura had thought that if I behaved, she would just give me some money and send me away after Chloe died. But now it seemed I would require a bit more effort to handle. I, however, was oblivious to the fact that a simple walk could earn me such resentment. I gently brushed a fallen petal from Chloe's hair, and as I looked down, I saw a flicker of sadness in her eyes. Thinking the scenery had stirred up feelings about her current situation, I comforted her. "What's past is past. You'll be back to your old self soon. Just think of these last 3 years as a long dream." Chloe slowly lifted her head, her eyes meeting my gentle gaze. Her lips parted slightly, and with a difficult yet stubborn effort, she managed to utter a few words. "Then, I'll get better soon." The sound of scattered footsteps came from a nearby path, and a group of people hurried into view, shattering the peaceful moment. Laura immediately snapped. "Who told you to bring Miss Hamilton out here? I just told you yesterday to keep your head down and behave. It seems my words meant nothing to you." She turned to Mr. Wallace. "Take Miss Hamilton back to her room at once, and take this man to the laundry room. Since he's so restless, he can scrub all the shoes in the house from now on." Mr. Wallace, already resentful and now emboldened by Laura's presence, no longer hesitated. "Sir, Miss Hamilton needs her rest. Please come with me to the laundry room." As he spoke, he reached out to grab me, but before he could even touch my sleeve, I hooked his leg with my foot, and he went down, face planting in the dirt. My movement was so swift that no one saw what I did. They just assumed the butler had tripped on his own. I even feigned concern, crouching down to help him up. "Mr. Wallace, are you all right? A grown man like you should watch your step." The butler spat out a mouthful of dirt and was about to speak when his vision went black and he passed out. In reality, as I helped him up, I had pressed a pressure point that induced unconsciousness. Leo's leg had been numb all night for the same reason. My kick had struck a point that temporarily paralyzed the circulation. The art of pressure points is a little-known skill these days, and those who have mastered it are few and far between. Laura was shocked at how useless Mr. Wallace was, fainting from a simple fall. She began to consider forcing him into early retirement. The Hamiltons had no need for a butler who couldn't even walk properly. With a cold expression, she ordered the bodyguard behind her. "What are you standing there for? Get Miss Hamilton back to her room." This bodyguard, a large African-American man named Big Mike, was powerfully built and looked like trouble. Rumor had it he was a former international kickboxing champion who could take on 10 men at once. Laura had hired him for a hefty sum and took him everywhere. When Chloe first started having her episodes before she was chained up, no one dared to go near her. It was Big Mike who finally subdued her and put her in the shackles she wore for 3 long years. Seeing him again, Chloe's fingers clenched into a tight fist. If her body wasn't still so stiff, she would have torn him limb from limb. Big Mike walked over and said, "Sorry about this, Miss Hamilton." He then pulled out a new set of shackles, preparing to restrain her just as he had done before. Before he could get close, I stepped in front of Chloe's wheelchair, my voice calm. According to U.S. law, no one can illegally imprison or restrain another person's freedom. A foreigner who breaks the law can be deported, you know. Hearing this, a flicker of confusion crossed Big Mike's face, and he glanced at Laura. Seeing me block the way, Laura sneered. "This is Hamilton property. It's laughable that you dare to bring up the law here. Do you even know your place?" I wasn't intimidated in the least. I retorted, "Isn't Hamilton property still within the borders of this country? If so, then everyone here is subject to its laws. Obeying the law is the duty of every citizen." As I spoke, I took out my phone and started recording. The Hamilton heiress, chained up by her stepmother for 3 years. If a video with a headline like that went viral, the police would be the least of their worries. The public outcry would be explosive. Laura gritted her teeth in fury. "How dare you threaten me? Big Mike, what are you waiting for? Get that phone from him, and from now on, he's forbidden from using any communication devices." Given the order, Big Mike no longer hesitated and reached for my phone. I raised my eyes, my gaze cold, and met his massive hand with my fist. The impact sent him stumbling back 3 steps, a numbing shock vibrating from his hand all the way up his arm. Big Mike stared at me in disbelief. He saw a cold, murderous intent in my eyes, the kind that couldn't be faked through training alone. It was the look of a warrior who had faced death and survived. I spoke coolly. "Big Mike, is it? How long have you been in this country?" As I talked, I casually touched the necklace I was wearing. Everything happening here was being transmitted via a hidden camera to a monitoring room at a secret facility. Perhaps it was my imposing aura, or maybe the sheer force of my punch, but Big Mike answered subconsciously, 5 years. I said lightly, "You must have made a good bit of money. If you want to keep making it in a foreign country, remember to follow the law. Otherwise, you'll be sent packing." At that very moment, in a secret facility, a man with a chilling demeanor was watching the monitor. He picked up a walkie-talkie and ordered, "Look into an illegal immigrant named Big Mike. Find a reason to have him deported." Laura, afraid of Chloe's potential outburst, was standing at a distance and didn't see our exchange clearly. She assumed Big Mike was hesitating to lay a hand on the new son-in-law. Fury rose within her. "Big Mike, have you forgotten who pays you? Take this kid down now. Stop wasting time talking to him." Although Big Mike's instincts told him I was dangerous, Laura was his employer. He wasn't too concerned about breaking the law now and then. After all, the mistress of the Hamilton house was a powerful woman with strong connections. She could easily protect him. Big Mike let out a low growl, a sound as intimidating as a wild beast's. He clenched his fists and swung at me with the force of a gale. This time, he was using his full strength. "Sorry, sir. You brought this on yourself." Chloe's back was to the confrontation, so she couldn't see what was happening, but she sensed I was in danger. She struggled, trying to stand, but her legs were still numb and wouldn't support her. Just as panic set in, she heard a soft grunt from behind her. Just as Big Mike's fist was about to connect, I frowned, noticing my shoelace had come undone. I bent down to tie it, neatly dodging the punch. His full-force blow landed squarely on the tree trunk behind me, shaking loose a shower of cherry blossoms that drifted down like snow. In that same instant, my expression shifted. I moved like lightning, striking 4 times, hitting major pressure points on Big Mike's arms and legs. By the time the last blossom had fallen and Laura's view was clear again, she saw Big Mike inexplicably kneeling on the ground, frozen, with his hands raised high in a posture of surrender. Laura was about to explode with rage at the sight of this idiot. She shrieked, "Big Mike, what is wrong with you? I told you to take care of that punk, not kneel to him." This time, Big Mike had truly experienced my skill and knew I was a master in disguise. He opened his mouth to explain to Laura, but my hand was already on his shoulder. I said with a smile, "Did you do something to offend my wife? Why else would you suddenly kneel before her? In any case, I accept your apology on her behalf." Big Mike tried to speak, but found he couldn't make a sound. When I had patted his shoulder, I had also hit a pressure point that rendered him mute. Laura cursed him for being useless and pulled out her phone to call the estate security team. Just then, a call came in from the head of security, his voice urgent. "Ma'am, there are police officers at the gate. They have a warrant for a Mr. Mike, your associate." They say he's been reported by a citizen for soliciting a prostitute and they need to take him in for questioning. If it's true, he'll be deported and barred from re-entry. Laura felt like she was about to have an aneurysm. That brute dared to solicit prostitutes? Am I paying him too much? Little did she know, Big Mike was even more miserable. It was true he'd visited a prostitute, but it was at a high-end club where he'd never had problems before. Why was he reported this time? It was over. With a criminal record, how could he ever make this kind of money again? In the end, the police carried Big Mike away. The effects of the pressure points wouldn't wear off for at least a day. I brushed the fallen petals off Chloe and said gently, "We've been out for a while. You must be tired. Let me take you back to rest." From start to finish, I didn't give Laura so much as a glance, which made her tremble with rage, yet she was powerless to do anything about it. Just then, Dr. Evans arrived. "Ma'am, why is Miss Hamilton outside?" Seeing that Chloe seemed to be in better spirits today, Laura snapped at the doctor. "Go and check on her." Dr. Evans introduced himself to me. "Hello, sir. I am Miss Hamilton's personal physician. I heard she had an episode yesterday, so I've come to give her a checkup." Before he could finish, I simply pushed Chloe's wheelchair and started walking away. Though embarrassed, Dr. Evans shamelessly followed us. "Sir, you must be tired as well. Allow me to push Miss Hamilton." But before his hand could even touch the wheelchair, a sharp slap landed across his face. Dr. Evans clutched his cheek, looking utterly wronged. I said coldly, "I don't even give Laura the time of day. What makes you, her obvious lapdog, think I'd treat you any differently? If I were you, I wouldn't ask for trouble." Dr. Evans was under orders from Laura to examine Chloe and confirm the extent of her deterioration. So, even after being slapped, he was not about to back down. He adopted a professional tone. "Sir, it is my duty as a doctor to treat Miss Hamilton. Your constant interference. Could it be that you have ulterior motives?" I sneered. "A classic case of accusing the victim, trying to pin the blame on me, are you? You've been treating Miss Hamilton, and her condition has only gotten worse. How can you call yourself a doctor? You're nothing but a quack." Dr. Evans's face turned ashen. "Sir, what are you implying?" I smiled faintly. "A doctor's duty is to heal people, not to do anything for money. Be careful. What goes around, comes around." With that, I pushed the wheelchair and left him standing there. Dr. Evans was left stunned. Could it be? Did he know something? Not daring to delay, he hurried back to Laura and shared his suspicions. "Ma'am, to be frank, Miss Hamilton's complexion looked much better just now. If it's not a final burst of energy before the end, then," Laura asked in astonishment. "What? You think that punk can actually save that lunatic?" Dr. Evans said gravely, "It's hard to say for sure, but Miss Hamilton is already at death's door. She can't just be saved overnight. I'm more concerned that after she dies, this man will go around spreading rumors." Hearing this, Laura slammed her hand on the table and sneered. "A punk from a no-name family thinks he can cause trouble for the Hamiltons." Despite her words, she felt a pang of regret. If she had known the man they brought in would be so difficult, she would have fought against the good luck marriage from the start. "Once that madwoman is dead, I'll kick him out. He really thinks he's someone important." On second thought, Laura decided it was best not to let things drag on. It was time to help them along. During the day, a servant brought medicine several times, but of course, I didn't let Chloe drink any of it. I even inspected all her meals personally before allowing her to eat. That night, I gave Chloe a dose of my own medicine. She recovered a little more, though her speech was still slightly slurred. I quickly explained, "You've been sick for a long time, so you can't rush it. Trust me, you'll be better soon." After that, I tucked her in. "Get some sleep." She closed her eyes and quickly drifted off. I slept on the sofa. The next day, I took Chloe out for another walk. Medication was one thing, but a change of scenery would be even more beneficial for her recovery. We had just gotten into the elevator to go downstairs when the doors closed and we were plunged into darkness. I immediately pressed the emergency call button, but there was no response. My phone had no signal either. It was clearly being jammed. This wasn't a simple power outage. It was deliberate. To avoid any further complications, Laura had decided to accelerate her plans by orchestrating an accident. Being trapped in a dark, stalled elevator for a few hours might be a minor inconvenience for a normal person, but for Chloe, who had been poisoned with miasma vine for so long, the mental stress would be severe. Her condition was already critical. The more frequent her episodes, the faster her life would drain away. At that moment, Laura was sitting in the first-floor living room, leisurely sipping her coffee and thinking to herself, does he really believe taking a lunatic for a walk will cure her and give him a backer? How ridiculous. Mr. Wallace approached her obsequiously. "Ma'am, they've been trapped for a while now. How much longer should we wait?" Laura took a sip of her coffee. "No rush. Our new son-in-law is so capable. Maybe he can fix the elevator and climb out himself. Whether it was me or Chloe who suffered an accident in that elevator, she would be delighted. Just as Laura was reveling in her scheme, Richard Hamilton, Chloe's father, who hadn't been home in over 2 weeks, suddenly walked in. This caught Laura by surprise, and she hurried to greet him. "Darling, I thought you weren't coming back until next week. What brings you home so early?" Richard was a notorious playboy in New York City. Ever since he'd come of age, he'd been either chasing women or on his way to chase them. He was good at that and little else. It was for this very reason that Chloe's grandfather, fearing the family's decline, had skipped over his own son and passed the leadership of the Hamilton Corporation directly to his granddaughter. Laura was long accustomed to her husband's behavior and turned a blind eye to his affairs, as long as her own position was secure. Richard explained, "You mentioned a couple of days ago that Chloe's episodes were getting more frequent. She's my daughter, after all. I thought I should come back and check on her. Where is she? I'll go see her. By the way, didn't the new husband for the good luck marriage already arrive? Has her condition improved at all since then?" Richard finished speaking and started heading upstairs to see Chloe. Despite his dissolute lifestyle over the years, he did occasionally think of his daughter. Chloe, especially, was the child of the woman he had loved most and was the most brilliant of all his children. Even though she was now a lunatic, the familial bond remained. Laura's eyes darted slyly. "Don't even get me started. You were the one who insisted on this superstitious nonsense. Turns out the boy is a jinx. He completely disregards Chloe's health, taking her outside in the cold wind. I wonder if he's just hoping she'll die so he can collect his money and leave." "What?" Richard was furious. "And you, her stepmother, just let him do as he pleases?" Laura feigned grievance. "I tried to stop him, but he doesn't respect me as his mother-in-law at all. He does whatever he wants. For every one thing I say, he has 10 retorts." Just then, a servant belatedly rushed in to report, "Sir, ma'am, it's terrible. The new master insisted on taking Miss Hamilton out, and the elevator malfunctioned. They're trapped inside." Laura feigned shock. "Oh my! She's so frail she can barely get out of bed. How could he take her out? This must be his doing. What are you all standing around for? Go get someone to open the elevator. We can't let Chloe get any more frightened." Richard grew anxious as well. "Which floor are they trapped on?" "The 5th floor. Quick, to the 5th floor." With the elevator out of service, everyone had to race up the stairs. Richard, panting, asked, "Where are the maintenance workers?" "It's their day off, sir. We've called them, but it will take some time for them to get here." To ensure we'd be trapped longer, Laura had given the maintenance crew the day off in advance. Richard banged on the elevator doors. "Chloe, are you okay? Just hang on. The repairmen are on their way." When there was no response from inside, Laura added with feigned worry, "Why is it so quiet? The air must be getting thin in there. What if Chloe has fainted?" Richard said urgently, "Then what are we waiting for? Get someone to pry the doors open. We can't let non-professionals do that. If they mess it up and the car drops, the people inside could be killed." At that very moment, a deep male voice came from behind them. "Why is everyone crowded around the elevator?" Laura spun around to see me, the person who was supposed to be trapped, standing perfectly fine in the doorway of the room, looking at them with a puzzled expression. I smiled. "Are you all waiting for the elevator?" I walked over, pressed the call button, and the doors slid open smoothly, revealing an empty car. Richard stared, completely bewildered. "Isn't the elevator broken? And who are you?" "He's the good luck husband you arranged for," Laura said irritably, then turned on me. "Weren't you and Miss Hamilton trapped in the elevator? We've been making all this commotion out here. Why didn't you show yourself? Were you trying to worry us on purpose?" I put on an innocent expression. "The elevator did malfunction for a moment, and I tried the emergency call, but I couldn't get through to anyone. By the time we got out, there was no one around, so I assumed you didn't even know we were stuck." Richard's temper flared. He glared at the surrounding servants. "Is what he's saying true? You didn't even know someone was trapped in the elevator? Are you all completely useless?" The servants lowered their heads, not daring to reveal that Laura had given them their orders. As for how we got out, I just smiled casually. "I guess we got lucky." It started working again after a couple of minutes. In truth, knowing it was sabotage, I had simply opened the doors myself and fixed the malfunction while I was at it. "Is Chloe okay?" Richard breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed this kid did have some good luck, fitting for his purpose. I smiled and said, "You must be her father. Chloe is fine, don't you worry." Laura, of course, wouldn't miss this opportunity to attack me. "This is all your fault for insisting on taking her out. She's a sick person. She can't keep up with your recklessness. If something had really happened, your life wouldn't be enough to atone for it." Seeing Richard's expression darken, Laura added more fuel to the fire. "Yesterday, Dr. Evans came to check on Chloe, But this punk, for some reason, absolutely refused to let him near her. Who knows if he's deliberately trying to make her condition worse. The implication was clear. I had malicious intentions and wanted to harm Chloe. At this, Richard's face contorted with anger. I can't believe you're so reckless. It's bad enough that you're irresponsible, but to think you'd harbor ill will towards my daughter. Laura chimed in, twisting the knife. Exactly. We can't have someone like him in the Hamilton family. At this rate, he'll be the death of Chloe. Richard said coldly. It seems you're not fit to be a son-in-law of this family. You can leave. I'll find another husband for Chloe. I replied firmly. I am now Chloe's legal husband. Unless my wife herself asks for it, no one can force us to divorce. Laura was stunned that I dared to talk back to Richard. Whether you get a divorce or not is not up to you. Call security and throw this punk out. Just then, a clear, cold voice cut through the air. Who dares to touch my husband? The voice startled everyone. The bedroom door opened, and Chloe slowly emerged in her wheelchair. Her face was still pale, but her entire aura had changed. Her eyes were no longer vacant but sharp and dark, her gaze so cold it seemed to freeze the very air around her. Laura knew instantly. The real Chloe was back. The quiet but formidable woman who could command a room with a single glance had returned. Besides me, the happiest person there was probably Richard. Chloe, you're lucid. Father. Chloe raised her eyes and gave him a cold look. It's been a while. Richard missed the sarcasm in her tone and moved to embrace his daughter, but Chloe turned her wheelchair, deftly avoiding him. Her gaze fixed on Laura. What's this? You want to kick out my husband? Laura had always been terrified of this formidable woman, and now she was so flustered she could barely speak. Chloe's eyes swept over the servants. If you can't even handle a simple elevator malfunction, what use are any of you? Settle their wages and have them all gone by the end of the day. The entire household staff were Laura's people, and just like that, they were all being replaced. Before Laura could protest, Richard had already agreed. Yes, replace them all. A fresh start. Anything to make you happy, Chloe. At this point, all Laura could do was feign concern. Chloe, are you feeling unwell at all? Should we have Dr. Evans come and take a look at you? That quack. Chloe sneered. No, thank you. In fact, not only would she never use that quack again, she planned on sending him to prison. They shouldn't assume that just because she was sick for a few years, she was ignorant of their deeds. Chloe, maybe we should take you to the hospital for a full checkup. Before Richard could finish, Chloe cut him off dismissively, turning her wheelchair. Darling, let's go back to our room. I immediately pushed her inside, closing the door and shutting out all the curious and probing stares. You haven't fully recovered yet. Why did you suddenly come out? In reality, Chloe's recovery had progressed even further today. Her speech was clear, and she could even stand and take a few slow steps. But it would be a few more days before she could walk with ease. I couldn't just stand by while you were being bullied, Chloe said seriously. You saved me and I will repay you. You can have anything you want. Through their interactions over the past 2 days, Chloe knew I was more than I seemed and that I had come to the Hamilton house with my own agenda. But none of that mattered. I had saved her life and freed her from the humiliation of being a madwoman. I let out a chuckle. Seeing her earnest expression, I suddenly felt the urge to tease her. Anything? Does that include you? As I spoke, I reached out and tilted her chin up. You're not bad looking. I suppose you're barely acceptable. It was just a joke. But Chloe's face instantly flushed red. She turned her head away and slowly replied, Okay. After a pause, she added, As long as you're willing, you will always be the master of this house, and I will fulfill my duties as a wife, respecting and honoring you for the rest of my life. I raised an eyebrow. Just respect and honor, but not love? At this, Chloe looked guilty. I'm sorry, but I can't give you my heart. 5 years ago, I already gave it to another boy. Like you, he also saved my life. Unfortunately, I've never been able to find him. I know it sounds ungrateful to say this, but I'd rather be honest than deceive you. Other than my heart, you can have anything you want, even my life. So she was the faithful type. I laughed, completely unconcerned. I was only here temporarily for a mission anyway. Keeping emotions out of it was better for both of us. All right then, let's agree to be a couple in name only for now. When you find your beloved boy, I'll step aside. Hearing me say this, Chloe was touched. Don't worry. Since you are my husband, I would never be unfaithful to you. Finding him is just about getting closure. In the future, unless you find someone else you love, no one can make you leave. As she spoke, her expression suddenly darkened. To be honest, I've searched for him for years with no luck. Everyone tells me he's probably not alive anymore, but I don't believe it. I always feel like he's out there somewhere in the world. I gave a broad smile and reassured her, I'll help you look for him later. After all, if I really want to find someone, There's no one on this earth I can't track down. Chloe didn't take my words seriously and changed the subject. How many more days until my body is fully recovered? At the earliest, tomorrow. At the latest, the day after, you'll be able to move around like a normal person. But you were sick for 3 years. Your body is severely depleted. You'll need time to recuperate and must not overexert yourself. Seeing Chloe frown, I guessed what she was thinking. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Why rush it? The person who harmed you was most likely Laura. Getting rid of her would be as easy as flipping a hand. Chloe gave a cold smile. A brainless woman like Laura is, at most, a weapon for someone else to wield. There are plenty of ways to deal with her. I just don't want her to die too easily. That wouldn't be fair after the 3 years of hell I endured. Chloe's tone was detached, but the murderous intent within it was unmistakable. It reminded me of a comment I'd once read in her file. This woman is cold-hearted and ruthless. She holds a grudge, and anyone who crosses her meets a miserable end. In the evening, Richard came to call Chloe down for dinner himself, saying cheerfully, "I heard you were awake, so your second brother and his wife came all the way back from Chicago to see you. Even Faye is back. Look at you, more important than your old man. They never make such a fuss when I come home." Chloe cut in bluntly. "That's because every time you come back, it's to ask for money, and every time you leave, it's to chase women." She never minced words with her father. Richard laughed awkwardly. "Chloe, at least give your father some face in front of an outsider." I raised an eyebrow. "Are you referring to me as an outsider?" The next moment, I felt a warmth in my hand as Chloe took it in hers. She looked up at me and smiled. "Once you're married, your husband is your closest family." Richard, feeling like a third wheel, grumbled, "You little rascal, you've never given your old man a proper smile in your entire life, yet you're so gentle with a man you've known for a few days? Ah, forget it. I'm leaving. You two come down for dinner soon." After Richard left and the door was closed, Chloe spoke. "Richard has always been selfish and opportunistic. He's not above burning bridges. When he called you an outsider just now, he was testing the waters. If I hadn't made my position clear, he would have started causing trouble for you." I scoffed. "He can try to burn that bridge, but we'll see if he has what it takes. I know you're not afraid, of course. I just don't want to cause you any trouble." When we came down from the 5th floor, the large dining room was already full. Her second brother, Caleb, was the first to speak. "Chloe, you look well. It seems you're recovering nicely. I'm so happy for you." He then turned to me with a polite greeting. "You must be the new brother-in-law. I've been away on business these past few days and haven't had the chance to meet you. I hope you don't mind." He glanced at his wife, Olivia, who immediately produced a red velvet box. "This is a wedding gift from both of us. Please, see if you like it." I took the gift and opened it. It was a diamond-encrusted watch. To an untrained eye, it might have looked expensive, but I could tell at a glance that the diamonds were of poor quality. It was all for show, practically worthless. I didn't expose their cheapness, but I didn't feign excitement either, simply saying, "Thank you. As long as you like it, we're all family. No need to be so formal." Olivia was smiling, but inwardly she was mocking me for being an unsophisticated hick who had never seen anything nice. Nearby, Leo was cuddling his lapdog. He glanced over from a distance, unable to see the quality of the watch, only that it looked stylish. He said sourly, "Caleb, Olivia, why are you giving him a gift as soon as you arrive? I need a new watch too. Why didn't you get one for me?" Caleb chuckled. "You're a grown man now, still asking for gifts? I'll have your sister-in-law pick one out for you tomorrow." Hearing this, I spoke up calmly, "Leo, you like this watch? Why don't you take it?" "Really?" Leo couldn't believe I was being so agreeable. I took the watch out of the box in front of everyone and walked over to him. Leo assumed I was just trying to look generous in front of the family and smugly reached for it, but I sidestepped his hand, and in one smooth motion, fastened the watch around his dog's paw. I smiled. "There, perfect fit." Leo was about to get angry, but when he looked down and saw the poor quality of the watch, he burst out laughing. "Olivia, you're so cheap, giving him a fake watch. But I have to say, it looks pretty good on my dog." Chloe's voice was icy. "Is this the thoughtful gift you prepared for my husband, Caleb? It seems that after 3 years of being bedridden, I'm now considered so worthless that you can fob my husband off with a fake." Olivia was mortified at being called out, especially since I had put the fake on a dog, implying her gift was only fit for an animal. As she was about to make an excuse, Caleb spoke first. "Chloe, don't be angry. This must be a misunderstanding. I'm sure your sister-in-law was deceived by the jeweler. I'll buy a new gift for my brother-in-law tomorrow." Chloe replied, "Don't bother. My husband has high standards. I doubt you could pick something he'd like. If you're sincere, just give him the cash equivalent." I grinned and immediately chimed in, My account number is 888,666 at Evergreen Credit Union. A direct transfer would be best to avoid any transaction fees. We wouldn't want my sister-in-law to worry about the extra cost. Olivia's heart was bleeding. How could this couple be so shameless? Who asks for a gift to be converted to a direct deposit? Caleb, however, asked nonchalantly, "Is $1 million enough?" $1 million made Olivia's heart ache even more. She frantically tried to signal her husband. "It's just a welcome gift, you don't need to give that much. 100,000 is more than enough for a very nice watch." I found Olivia's expression amusing and couldn't resist twisting the knife a little deeper. "I grew up in the countryside, so I'm not familiar with these things. I really don't know if $1 million can buy a satisfactory watch. How about we make it 2 million? Unless you think that's too much, Caleb?" Olivia looked like she was about to faint. How dare this punk ask for so much? Caleb, however, remained composed. "Not at all, as long as my brother-in-law is happy." And with that, he transferred the money to me right then and there. After the transaction was complete, everyone took their seats for dinner. The new servants were busy bringing out dishes and serving soup. Caleb, noticing all the unfamiliar faces, asked, "Has the entire household staff been replaced?" At the mention of this, Laura lost her appetite completely. Muttering something about an upset stomach, she excused herself and went to her room. Ever since I had arrived, nothing had gone right for her. Her competent bodyguard was suddenly deported, Chloe had inexplicably recovered, and the first thing she did was fire the staff Laura had spent years cultivating. Richard, oblivious to his wife's mood, recounted the morning's events to Caleb. Caleb just smiled. Chloe has always been decisive. It's just like her to replace the staff so quickly and give the house a fresh start. Chloe replied coolly, "If you can't manage a household, how can you manage a corporation?" After dinner, I took Chloe back to our room, checked her pulse again, and gave her another pill. Chloe trusted me completely, swallowing the pill without hesitation before asking, "What exactly is this medicine you're giving me?" I grinned roguishly. "Poison. But it's a little late to be asking now, seeing as you've been taking it for days. If it's poison from you, I'd take it willingly. You're a fool. You trust people too easily. What if I saved you just to use you for some evil scheme and then killed you off in the end? Then you wouldn't need to waste the pills. Just tell me what to do. If you want my life, you only have to ask." Hearing this, I burst out laughing. "You're much more interesting alive. That pill is an all-purpose antidote I developed myself. It counteracts a wide range of toxins. I always carry some with me, just in case. Besides its detoxifying properties, it has no side effects. I had saved many people in my life, but this woman before me was, by far, the most intriguing." "Oh, right, there's something I need to talk to you about. I was staying in the same room to protect you from any plots. But now that the entire estate is staffed with your people, it's unlikely anyone can harm you so easily. So, I was thinking, maybe you could arrange a separate room for me? Sleeping on this sofa for the past few days has been really uncomfortable. You've been inconvenienced." Chloe considered it seriously. "Normally, I would get you your own room, but if I do, people will know there's something wrong between us." Hearing that, I felt a bit troubled too. "That's true. How about we get another bed? A sofa bed would be perfect. We can fold it up during the day so no one will notice." "Okay." Chloe immediately gave the order, and a new sofa bed was delivered in less than an hour. I had to admit, her people were efficient. If she hadn't been incapacitated and unable to give commands, she never would have suffered so miserably for the past 3 years. After the bedding was made, I was about to lie down, but Chloe beat me to it. I asked, confused, "What are you doing?" "From now on, you sleep in the bed. I'll sleep here." With that, Chloe wrapped herself in the blanket. "Get some rest. Good night." Since she was being so considerate, I didn't hesitate to claim her luxurious king-sized bed. And I had to say it was incredibly comfortable. I fell asleep almost instantly. Chloe, having been pampered her whole life, had never slept on a sofa bed before and woke up in the middle of the night feeling uncomfortable. She turned over, intending to go back to sleep, when her eyes fell on me. She saw a look of terror on my face, as if I were trapped in a nightmare. "No, you monsters. Get away, all of you. Mom, help me." At that moment, I was no longer the confident young man from the daytime who could solve any problem. I was like a vulnerable kitten, curled into a tight ball, muttering in my sleep and calling for my mother. At some point, Chloe had gotten into the bed and was now holding me, whispering softly, "Don't be afraid. It's just a dream. I'm here. No one can hurt you anymore." She didn't know my past, but she could sense that I must have endured unimaginable suffering. Perhaps sensing her presence, I gradually quieted down and fell back into a deep sleep. When I woke up, it took me a few seconds to get my bearings. Then I saw the person next to me and was completely shocked. Sometime during the night, Chloe had climbed into my bed and was now holding me tightly, fast asleep and snoring softly. I reacted like a startled cat, kicking her right off the bed. Chloe woke up instantly and yelped, "I'm a patient. If you kill me, you won't be able to stay in this house anymore." I demanded fiercely, "You sneak into my bed in the middle of the night. What did you do to me?" Chloe sighed in exasperation. "Your clothes are perfectly intact. What could I have possibly done to you? Besides, with your skills, I wouldn't dare try anything even if I had 100 times the courage. I saw you having a nightmare last night and just wanted to comfort you. I must have fallen asleep without realizing it." I finally calmed down and checked my clothes. Everything was in order. My biggest fear was becoming an unwitting father. Then again, if something had really happened, I probably would have been aware of it. The nightmares, however, had plagued me for years, a secret I'd kept from everyone. I was used to them, but I never expected Chloe to find out. "Fine, I'll believe you for now." I then added a stern warning, "Don't you dare tell anyone about my nightmares. And next time, just pretend you didn't see anything. And no hugging." At this, Chloe couldn't help but smile. "Don't worry, your secret is safe with me." I eyed her suspiciously. "Why are you smiling? Are you laughing at me?" Chloe quickly suppressed her smile. "No, not at all." I felt helpless, a grown man losing face in front of a woman. By the time we went downstairs for breakfast, it was already past 9. Leo came down, still sleepy-eyed, and saw Chloe and me in the dining room. Before he could even get close, Chloe shot him a cold glare. Leo immediately lost his appetite, lowered his head, and hurried out the door to his classes. I couldn't help but laugh. "Your brother didn't even eat. You scared him off with a single look. TSK, TSK, the poor kid." Chloe had never liked Laura's children and never treated them well. She retorted, "Don't worry, he won't starve." After breakfast, I said to her in a serious tone, "You've mostly recovered now. You don't need me watching over you all the time." Chloe frowned, interrupting me. "Are you leaving? Didn't you agree to stay at the Hamilton house for a while?" Seeing her misunderstanding, I smiled. "Who said I was leaving? I just want to go out for a bit, do some shopping." Chloe breathed a quiet sigh of relief. "Do you need me to go with you?" "No need. Shopping is exhausting, and you're not strong enough for it yet." Chloe nodded and then handed me a solid black card with gold trim. I was surprised. "What's this? It's quite striking." Chloe explained, "It's the black card for the Grandview Plaza. You can buy anything you want with it." The Grandview Plaza was the most exclusive shopping mall in New York City, a favorite haunt of the elite with prices to match. I raised an eyebrow. "Buy anything? For free? Don't tell me you own the place." I knew the owner of the Grandview Plaza was famously mysterious, entrusting all operations to a CEO and never making a public appearance. Chloe nodded. "When I was 13, my grandfather gave me a sum of money to test my business acumen. The condition was that I couldn't use any of the Hamilton family's connections. So I bought a piece of land and invested in the Grandview Plaza. The following year, New York real estate prices skyrocketed, and the value of the land alone quadrupled. After it was built, it quickly became the top shopping destination in the country. The black card you're holding is the only one of its kind. With it, you could literally buy out the entire mall." I missed the hint of pride in her voice and just clicked my tongue. "Buy out the whole mall, huh? You wouldn't mind if I actually did it?" Then I burst out laughing. "Don't worry, I'm not that greedy. I'll only take half the mall, tops. Ha ha ha." And with that, I took the card and left, humming a cheerful tune. Chloe watched me go, a rare smile gracing her usually cold face. Soon I arrived at the mall. As I was walking, a shirt in a display window caught my eye. I checked the price, $58,000. Even without Chloe's black card, I could afford it myself. Just as I was about to pay, someone else entered the store. And as luck would have it, it was my cousin, Tyler Miller, the one who had refused to marry the mad Chloe. With him was Ryan Scott, a young master from the Scott family, one of New York's 3 most powerful dynasties. "Ryan, look, isn't that the limited edition shirt we saw in the magazine yesterday? It looks even better in person." He snatched the shirt from the sales associate's hands. But when he saw the price tag, his enthusiasm deflated. The Millers were merely well off. He couldn't afford to spend that much on a single shirt. Ryan Scott also liked the shirt, but even he thought the price was a bit steep. As an illegitimate son of the Scott family, his standing was low. His monthly allowance was $60,000, and spending nearly all of it on one shirt was a bit extravagant. Just then, my cousin Tyler recognized me. "Well, if it isn't my cousin, Ethan, what are you doing here?" When I had first moved in with the Hamiltons, I had dressed very plainly. My current stylish appearance was a stark contrast. I found it amusing. "Is it so strange to be at a mall? Ryan, let me introduce you. This is my cousin, Ethan, the one who was sold off for that good luck marriage. Ryan's expression turned mocking. So this is the cousin you mentioned? The one who sold himself for $200,000 to marry into a family with a lunatic? No wonder he can afford to shop at a place like this. He sold his soul after all. I had indeed taken $200,000 from my uncle, Frank, but that was me reclaiming my parents' inheritance under the guise of the marriage payment. I never thought Tyler would twist the story like this. My face hardened. Give me back the shirt. Don't mess with me, or you'll regret it. Give it back? You haven't paid for it, why should I? So you squeezed 200 grand out of my family. What are you so proud of? You should save that money. Once your crazy wife kicks the bucket, you'll be thrown out on the street. Don't come crawling back to us then. Before he could finish, I slapped him hard across the face. A red handprint immediately appeared on his cheek. I said coldly, I guess I went too easy on you at the Miller's house if you think you can be this insolent with me now. How dare you hit me? Tyler was furious, but remembering the shoulder throw that had left him aching for days, he didn't dare fight back. Instead, he looked pleadingly at Ryan Scott. Before he could react, I snatched the shirt from his hand. First come, first served. Ever heard of it? If not, go have your mother teach you some manners. Since returning to the Scott family, Ryan had been treated with respect everywhere he went. He had never been humiliated like this. Do you have any idea who I am? How dare you speak to me like that? I snorted. I don't care who you are. Get out of my way. Ryan gritted his teeth. In New York, even the Hamiltons have to show the Scott family some respect. I laughed dismissively. The Hamiltons might show respect to the Scotts, but that courtesy extends to your legitimate relatives, not to an illegitimate son like you. His bastard status was a sore spot for Ryan, and I had just exposed it for everyone to hear. It was a direct slap in the face. He turned to the store manager, fuming. If you ever want the Scott family's business again, you will throw this man out right now. Don't worry, Tyler added. He's just a punk from the countryside. He has no one to back him up. From the moment I walked in, the manager had been sizing up my clothes and looking down on me. He might have been slightly wary of my connection to the Hamiltons, but hearing Ryan's words, he cast aside all caution. Sir, please leave. We don't have time to serve you. Eager to curry favor with Ryan, the manager continued, and please return the shirt. Even if you have the money, we will not sell it to you. Ryan looked me up and down. Look at what you're wearing. You're completely out of your league. Daring to compete with me for something? You must have a death wish. Manager, what are you standing there for? Get him out of here. At his command, the manager moved to physically remove me, but he froze and retreated before he could even speak, intimidated by a single glare from me. I asked coldly, are you sure you want to throw me out? The manager, trying to sound tough, blustered. It's not me, it's you. You've offended someone you shouldn't have. If you know what's good for you, you'll leave now and avoid further trouble. I turned to the young sales associate who had been helping me earlier. You tell me, who should this shirt be sold to? The associate, still on probation, was trembling. Having witnessed this blatant bullying, she felt a secret sense of injustice on my behalf. She had wanted to intervene several times, but her position was too junior, and the manager's loud voice had silenced her. Hearing my question, she decided to speak the truth. This gentleman was here first and said he wanted to buy it. I was about to ring him up when Mr. Scott came in. The manager roared, you stupid girl, do you want to lose your job? Do you have any idea who Mr. Scott is? If you offend him, you'll never work in this industry again. The young associate, however, had a backbone. She took off her work jacket. Fine, I quit. I'll just go back to my hometown. The city is full of bullies. At least people in the country are honest. I was surprised by her spunk. I bent down, picked up her jacket, and handed it to her. Don't worry, I'll take care of your job. Then I turned to Ryan with a smile. You were just saying you'd make sure this young lady never works in this industry again, right? How about this? Let's make a bet. Not only will she not lose her job today, she'll become the manager of this store. The current manager sneered. And who do you think you are to make such a ridiculous claim? Ryan laughed as well. All right, let's say you have 10 minutes. How about that? He figured getting a probationary employee fired would be trivially easy. I, however, remained unconcerned and agreed with a smile. If we're going to bet, we need some stakes. As I spoke, I discreetly touched my necklace again, recording the terms of the bet in case he tried to back out later. Ryan was absolutely certain he would win and couldn't wait to see me humiliated. How about this? The loser has to walk a lap around the mall in their underwear. I frowned slightly. That seems a bit much. Fearing I would back down, Ryan taunted me. What's the matter? Scared. Or you could crawl out of the mall on all fours like a dog. I gave a disdainful smile. Fine, you have a deal. Ryan immediately shot a look at the manager. The manager walked over to the young associate and said arrogantly, "You can go now. An employee who hasn't even passed probation can be fired with a single word from me." The associate snorted, "You're just a bully who kisses up to the powerful. All you do is pick on new staff. I'm leaving. It's no big deal." As she was about to walk away, I stopped her. "The 10 minutes aren't up yet. What's your hurry? Why not wait a bit? I might just make you the manager after all." At this, the other three burst into laughter. I let them enjoy their moment and took out my phone to make a call. "Chloe, are you busy?" On the other end of the line, the woman who was in the middle of a video conference immediately closed her laptop. "Not busy, just taking a break." I got straight to the point. "The manager of the men's shirt boutique at the Grandview Plaza. I don't like him. Fire him and replace him. I need it done in the next 5 minutes." With that, I hung up. Ryan crossed his arms and sneered. "Listen to him. Anyone who didn't know better would think he owned the Grandview Plaza." Tyler chimed in. "He's probably spent too much time with that lunatic. His brain has gone soft, can't tell fantasy from reality." Ryan shook his head with a sigh. "Such a shame. A perfectly good person. So greedy he married a mad woman, and now he's gone mad himself." Just then, a man in a sharp suit came rushing into the store. The manager saw him and immediately bowed. "Mr. Lee, good to see you." Mr. Lee was the general manager of the Grandview Plaza, responsible for its entire operation. He had been in a meeting when he received a sudden call from Chloe and had come over at once. Mr. Lee looked at the people in the store and asked cautiously, "Excuse me, which of you is the holder of the black card?" Tyler looked completely clueless. He didn't even know what a black card was. Ryan, however, pulled a black card from his wallet and shot me a smug look. "Mr. Lee, did you come to greet me personally because you heard I was here?" But Mr. Lee just shook his head. "I'm sorry, sir, but that is just a VIP card that offers certain discounts. I was referring to the black card, the one with the gold trim. The holder of that card is entitled to any item in this mall, free of charge. They could buy out the entire plaza if they wished." Everyone's jaws dropped. A card that let you take anything from the mall? How valuable must that be? At that moment, I casually pulled the black card from my pocket. "Are you talking about this one?" The moment Mr. Lee saw the card, he understood who I was. He bowed deeply. "My sincerest apologies, sir, for your unpleasant shopping experience. I will handle this as you instructed." He then turned to the store manager. "You're fired. Please leave the premises immediately." The manager protested. "Mr. Lee, I've worked diligently here for years. Why are you firing me just like that? Because you offended someone you can't afford to offend. You should have known better." Ryan stepped forward. "Mr. Lee, is it? Let me tell you, for whatever reason, you cannot fire this manager today. I am a young master of the Scott family, and we have spent a great deal of money here over the years. If you don't do as I say, you will lose the Scotts as a major client." Hearing this, I raised an eyebrow. "A major client, you say?" "Mr. Lee, from this day forward, the Grandview Plaza will no longer serve Mr. Scott." The general manager bowed. "Yes, sir. As you wish." Ryan's face turned ugly. "Mr. Lee, are you really not afraid of offending the Scott family?" "My apologies, but I'm just an employee. When the owner gives an order, I have to follow it." Tyler, still confused, asked, "What owner?" Mr. Lee gestured to me. "This is our owner's husband." Ryan stared at me in disbelief. "You mean this country bumpkin? What's his relationship with your owner? Don't tell me your boss is that madwoman from the Hamilton family?" Mr. Lee's eyes turned cold. "Sir, I suggest you watch your language. Our owner has made a full recovery. After the Grandview Plaza became successful, Chloe had stepped back from its management, and very few people knew she owned it." Tyler was shocked. "Recovered? Is that true? I've never heard of a mad person getting better." Mr. Lee couldn't be bothered to argue with him and turned back to me respectfully. "Sir, do you have any other instructions?" I pointed to the stunned young associate. "I like this girl. Make her the manager of this store. Other than that, I think that's all. I just came here to do some shopping today. I hadn't intended to make a bet with Ryan. I have my own ways of dealing with people like him. But I was curious to see if Chloe would be willing to offend the Scott family for my sake." Thankfully, she didn't disappoint. Having thoroughly embarrassed himself, Ryan saw he had no advantage here. He shot me a glare and turned to leave. I blocked his path. "I believe you're forgetting our little wager, Mr. Scott. The loser walks a lap around the mall in their underwear. It was your idea, remember? I thought the stakes were a bit harsh myself, but you insisted, so what could I do?" Ryan looked like his eyes were about to pop out of his head. "Don't push your luck." I casually blew on my fingernails. "If I really wanted to push you, what could you do about it? You bastard!" Enraged, Ryan swung a punch at me. I caught his fist before it could land. I held it tight and slapped him several times across the face with my free hand. "Ethan, stop!" Tyler cried out. "He's a young master of the Scott family. Even the Hamiltons can't afford to offend them. What, you want to take his punishment for him? I'd advise you to think carefully about whether you can handle it." Tyler immediately fell silent and backed away. I put on a roguish grin. "Actually, I agree that walking around in your underwear is a bad idea. Your physique is terrible. It would be an eyesore. How about this? You crawl out of here like a dog, and we'll call it even." Ryan was completely broken. His legs trembled, and he almost fell to his knees. "I can't win against you. For the sake of the Scott family, please, let's just drop it." "Heh, if I had lost today, would you have let me go for the sake of the Hamilton family?" "Of course not. You would have just thought my wife was a lunatic who couldn't back me up. By the same token, you're just an illegitimate son of the Scott family. Who's going to back you up?" Ryan was used to bullying the weak, never imagining he'd run into a wolf in sheep's clothing. Ryan pleaded, "No matter what, I'm still a Scott. This is about the family's honor." He then turned to Tyler. "Have him crawl out in my place." Tyler may have been a bootlicker, but he wasn't willing to be an actual dog. He panicked. "You were the one who made the bet. Why should I take the punishment for you?" I shook my head regretfully. "As you know, Tyler is my cousin. I can't let my own family be humiliated, can I?" For a moment, Tyler felt a flicker of gratitude, but then he saw the cunning look in my eyes and realized, "Ethan, you're doing this on purpose. You're trying to make Ryan blame me for all this." I ignored him and shoved Ryan to the floor. "Crawl or don't crawl. My patience is wearing thin. If you don't start moving, I won't be so polite." In the end, with a miserable expression, Ryan started to crawl. The moment he was out of the store and beyond my reach, he scrambled to his feet and ran. But not before many people had seen him, and some had even recorded it. He was utterly disgraced. "You're ruthless, Ethan. This isn't over," Tyler shouted before fleeing in a panic. But the damage was done. He had now made an enemy of Ryan Scott. He had thought he was finally breaking into New York's elite circles, but now all his efforts were wasted, and he had likely brought trouble upon his family. I straightened my clothes and turned to the stunned new manager. "What are you standing there for? Aren't you going to bag my shirt? Don't you want the commission?" The new manager snapped out of her daze. "Oh my lord, that was incredible!" she exclaimed, her excitement causing her country accent to slip out. As for the former manager, he was scared stiff. He had expected me to deal with him next, but as I left the store, I didn't even spare him a glance. A small fry like him wasn't worth my time. With Chloe's unlimited black card, I bought a mountain of things at the Grandview Plaza. I returned to the Hamilton estate laden with shopping bags. I saw Chloe sitting peacefully in a rocking chair, watching the sunset, looking every bit the recovering patient. I smiled in satisfaction, tossed the bags onto the bench at the foot of the bed, and went to the bathroom. In reality, Chloe had been in video conferences all day. She only hurriedly put away her laptop and feigned relaxation when the gate security guard reported my return. Having been incapacitated for 3 years, she had lost a great deal of time and work. Now that she was feeling better, she was eager to get back to it, but my insistence on her recuperating forced her to stay home. Chloe had already heard about my confrontation with Ryan Scott from Mr. Lee. She wasn't concerned about offending the Scott family, but she was curious about what kind of shirt would make me cause such a scene. Her eyes scanned the room and landed on the LC shopping bag on the bench. If it weren't for me, she wouldn't have even remembered there was an LC boutique in her mall. But now, perhaps out of boredom, she suddenly felt the urge to see what I had bought. "Is this it?" She picked up the bag, but before she could look inside, I came out of the bathroom. "What are you doing with my things?" Startled, Chloe dropped the bag. The expensive silk shirt and a pair of garishly patterned boxer shorts spilled out, landing right on her slippers. Chloe was mortified and tried to cover. "I was just checking to see if you bought me a gift and accidentally grabbed the wrong bag." I was a bit embarrassed myself. "You have everything you could ever want here. What kind of gift would you need?" I said, trying to sound tough to hide my own awkwardness. I cleared my throat, calmly picked up the boxer shorts, and turned to hide them in the closet. But then I heard a cool, soft laugh from behind me. "It is quite nice, actually. Worth fighting for." Meanwhile, at the Miller's house, after being humiliated by me and earning the enmity of Ryan Scott, Tyler saw that his prospects in New York were ruined. He fled back to Cleveland overnight and tearfully recounted his woes to his parents. When his mother, Diane, heard the story, her face turned pale with rage. "How dare that ungrateful brat treat you like that? I will not stand for it. I'm going to the Hamiltons tomorrow to settle the score with him." Frank, his father, was focused on something else. "Tyler, are you saying Chloe Hamilton has recovered? I've never heard of someone with a mental illness getting better." Tyler was just as confused. I don't know how, but the general manager of the Grandview Plaza said she had recovered. He didn't say how. Hearing this, Diane was consumed with jealousy. That punk is too damn lucky. I thought he'd be a widower soon after marrying in. Something's not right here. It's probably just a final burst of energy before she dies. Otherwise, they never would have let him marry her. Tyler's gloomy expression brightened. Right. It's probably just a last gasp, and she's putting on a show for us. Frank pondered for a moment. There's no point in speculating. We'll go to the Hamilton estate tomorrow. I'm his uncle, which now makes me Chloe's uncle by marriage. We're legitimate in-laws. If she really has recovered, we might be able to get something out of it. He then instructed Tyler, when we go tomorrow, remember to be on your best behavior and get along with your cousin. The next morning, Chloe once again found herself kicked out of my bed, followed by a barrage of accusations. Chloe, why are you so obsessed with my body? You broke your promise. You keep sneaking into my bed in the middle of the night. Have I been too nice to you? Have I spoiled you so much that you think you can just take advantage of me? Chloe was speechless. Fortunately, she had been prepared. She had set her phone to record during the night, capturing not only my nightmare but also proving that she had behaved herself and done nothing inappropriate. After watching the video, my anger subsided. Chloe breathed a silent sigh of relief, mentally patting herself on the back for her cleverness. But the next moment, my tone shifted again. Who gave you permission to film me? I didn't know you had a secret recording fetish. Chloe was at a loss for words. When a man decides to be unreasonable, there's nothing anyone can do. That morning, as Laura was leaving in her car, she noticed an unfamiliar vehicle parked at the main gate. Upon inquiry, she learned it was the Miller family. The security guard was about to announce them, but Laura's eyes glinted, and she said, "Our in-laws are here. What's there to report? You people have no sense. Open the gate immediately." She could tell at a glance that the Millers were no good, and they were likely here either to cause trouble for me or to ask for something. Then, Laura sent a message to Richard, telling him to come home. The Millers were surprised by Laura's warm welcome as she personally greeted them at the door. Tyler thought to himself, so his mother-in-law is this nice. No wonder Ethan is so arrogant outside. He must be spoiled by his wife's family. Seeing the Hamilton estate, which was as grand as a royal castle and lavishly decorated inside and out, Tyler was filled with regret. The three of them had just entered the living room when I came downstairs. I was rather surprised to see them. When Frank saw me, his face lit up, and then he squeezed out some emotional tears. "You've been here for days. Why haven't you called your uncle? Are you settling in well at the Hamiltons?" I had to admire his acting skills. "I didn't realize you were so concerned about me, uncle. I hadn't heard from you in days, so I thought you'd forgotten all about me." Frank rubbed his nose and laughed awkwardly. "How could that be? You're my only nephew. I've always cared for you the most." He shot a subtle glance at Diane. She quickly produced the gifts they had brought, and Frank began distributing them enthusiastically. "Your aunt and I put a lot of thought into picking these out for everyone. Where is Miss Hamilton?" I walked over to the sofa, glanced at the gifts, and feigned delight. "Wow, these are all wonderful things. You and Aunt Diane must have spent a fortune. This silk scarf for my mother-in-law in particular is from a top designer. It probably cost more than that entire wardrobe you bought for me." Frank, sensing the edge in my voice, assumed I was still upset about yesterday and pushed Tyler forward. "Tyler told me what happened. You're the bigger person, so don't hold a grudge against your own cousin." Though reluctant, Tyler mumbled a half-hearted apology. Laura's curiosity was piqued. "Yesterday? What happened yesterday?" So Frank gave a brief, sanitized version of yesterday's events, downplaying how Tyler and Ryan had insulted me and framing it as a minor squabble over a shirt. In his telling, I came off as the unreasonable one who had offended the Scott family over nothing. Just as he was finishing, Richard walked in and overheard. He exploded. "What? You spent over $50,000 on a shirt and offended the Scotts in the process? Our families have known each other for generations, and we have numerous business dealings. Do you have any idea what kind of trouble you've caused? Does Chloe know what a troublemaker you are?" Richard unleashed a torrent of accusations. Frank realized he had misspoken and quickly tried to smooth things over with Richard. "Please don't be angry. My nephew grew up in the country. He's a bit overwhelmed by all this wealth and doesn't know any better. Please, be patient with him. If he's done anything wrong, I, as his uncle, apologize on his behalf." Finding the whole scene tedious, I turned to go upstairs. But Tyler, clueless as ever, piped up, "Ethan, this house is amazing. Can you give me a tour of the upstairs?" Before he could finish, I shot him a look that made him swallow his words. Frank, who had yet to experience my temper, shamelessly followed me. "We're not done talking. Why are you leaving? How is Miss Hamilton's health? Why don't you take us upstairs to see her? I refused bluntly. No need. My wife needs to rest and doesn't want to be disturbed by strangers. Frank persisted. How can you call us strangers? We're your family. Laura, ever the pot stirrer, interjected. I saw Chloe at breakfast, and she seemed to be in good spirits. I'm sure she can receive guests. Besides, it's not right for a wife to hide from her husband's family. Who said I was hiding? A cool voice suddenly interjected. Then, everyone saw the elegant Chloe Hamilton descending the stairs. She no longer needed a wheelchair and showed no signs of her recent illness. When Tyler saw her, he couldn't take his eyes off her. This was Chloe Hamilton? No one had ever told him she was so stunningly beautiful, and she looked perfectly healthy, without a trace of sickness. This woman was supposed to be his fiancée, but that punk Ethan had gotten lucky. Chloe didn't even spare Tyler a sideways glance. Only when her eyes met mine did the ice in them seem to melt. I heard your family was here. Why didn't you tell me? I only just found out they were here when I came downstairs. Chloe immediately picked up on the implication. The Millers had shown up unannounced. At that moment, Richard sidled up to complain. Chloe, you really need to get your husband under control. Do you know what he did yesterday? He got into a fight with a young master from the Scott family over a shirt. He's definitely offended them. Before he could finish, Chloe cut him off coldly. Someone dared to compete with my husband for a shirt? They're lucky I haven't gone to the Scotts to settle the score. Richard was furious. You insolent girl. How can you say such a thing for a man? The Hamilton Corporation has been working closely with the Scotts for the past 2 years. What if this incident affects our business relationship? Chloe sneered. The person doing business with the Scotts for the past 2 years has been Caleb, not me. What does it have to do with me? Since you've washed your hands of the company, you should stay out of its affairs. You ungrateful daughter. Richard was fuming, but in the end, he was powerless against Chloe and could only stomp away in frustration. I didn't want to bother Chloe with my personal matters, so I said to Frank, why are you really here today? Just spit it out. Ethan, can we speak in private? Curious to see what he was up to, I said to Chloe, don't worry about them. Go back to the room and rest. I'll handle this. Then I led Frank to the second-floor sitting room. Just as Chloe was about to leave, Diane called out to her warmly. So this is my dear niece-in-law. You're absolutely gorgeous. Ethan is so lucky to have such a wonderful wife. Come, sit and chat with your aunt. Ethan used to love talking with me when he was a boy. Hearing her mention my childhood, Chloe became interested. Diane proceeded to spin a few fabricated stories about my past, then changed the subject. Ethan and Tyler were the closest of friends growing up, practically inseparable. Why don't you let Tyler tell you some stories about him? She then turned to Laura. The garden looks lovely. Would you mind showing me around? From the moment he had laid eyes on Chloe, Tyler hadn't been able to look away. Diane had noticed her son's infatuation and was deliberately trying to create an opportunity for them to be alone. Laura had also seen through their scheme. Hoping to use the Millers to cause trouble for me, she condescended to take Diane for a walk in the garden. Once Chloe and Tyler were alone in the living room, Tyler spoke first. Is my cousin treating you well? He has a bit of a temper, so please don't take it personally. He grew up in the mountains, you see. He's uncultured and a bit rough around the edges. I hope you don't mind. Chloe frowned slightly and replied coolly, is that so? Seeing her surprised expression, Tyler assumed I must be putting on a very convincing act for her. If you want to pretend, I'll be the one to expose you. He leaned in closer and continued to ramble on, finally getting to his point. You know, I was originally supposed to be your husband. Chloe's eyes narrowed, a dangerous glint in their icy depths. I see. Tyler, oblivious to the change in her demeanor, continued in a cloying tone. Chloe, may I call you that? It must be so hard for you, being married to someone like Ethan. He's so savage and uneducated, not like me. I know how to be considerate and take care of someone. Meanwhile, in the second-floor sitting room, I sat on the sofa, arms crossed, and said to Frank, let's not waste time. What do you want? Frank sat down with a smile. Since we're family, I'll be direct. My company owes the bank some money, but we've run into some operational issues recently and can't make the payment. The Hamiltons are never short on cash. I was hoping you could lend me $10 million to tide me over. $10 million was indeed a trivial amount for the Hamilton family. I smiled. And why should I lend it to you? Frank said shamelessly, we're in-laws, aren't we? And don't forget, Ethan, if it weren't for the Miller family, you wouldn't be married into the wealthy Hamilton family. I sneered. What? Operational issues? Isn't it because you gambled away all your money and, unable to pay your debts, embezzled company funds to cover them, which is why you can't repay the loan? The Hamiltons gave you a substantial sum when the marriage contract was signed. But when you found out Chloe was mad, you pushed me forward to take your place. Am I wrong? Frank was stunned. He couldn't believe I knew about his gambling debts. Even his wife didn't know the extent of it. I continued, I wasn't even going to ask for the money the Hamiltons gave you. But now you have the audacity to show up here and ask for 10 million more. Where do you get the nerve? At this, Frank grew angry. You brat. I'm your uncle, your only living relative in this world. How can you speak to me like that? So what if I schemed a little? In the end, you got to marry into the Hamilton family and live a life of luxury. I scoffed. The only reason I'm even listening to this nonsense is because you're my father's brother. If you ever come here causing trouble again, don't expect me to be so polite. Frank couldn't believe this was the same meek pushover from a few days ago, but he had come prepared to ask for a large sum of money. Fine. So you've grown wings now and no longer have any respect for your uncle. I just wonder if you still have any respect for your father. I frowned. What are you talking about? Your parents died in an accident all those years ago. Aren't you the least bit curious about how they really died? I remembered it clearly. It was the eve of my 10th birthday. My parents were rushing home to celebrate with me when they were in a major car accident, and both were killed. I was too young at the time to realize there was anything suspicious about it. Hearing Frank bring it up now, my heart sank. I realized the crash might have been deliberate. Frank sighed. Your poor parents. They had no other family, so I was the one who had to come and handle their affairs. Even back then, I felt something wasn't right. I did some digging later and, sure enough, I found something. I pressed him. What did you find? The next moment, a cunning smile spread across his face. You see, Ethan, this is the benefit of having family. When things go wrong, only family can help. I know I haven't been the best uncle to you over the years, but you have to remember, I'm your father's only brother. If your father were still alive, he would certainly help his brother in a time of need. So, you're blackmailing me? Frank laughed. How can you call it blackmail? This is just family helping family. I need money, you lend it to me. You want to know about your father? I'll tell you everything I know. A fair exchange, isn't it? There's nothing I hate more in this world than being threatened. I closed my eyes. Leave. Don't make me get physical. Frank was taken aback. What do you mean? You don't want to know about your parents? You really are an ungrateful brat. You don't even care about getting justice for them. My brother would be so proud. At that, my eyes snapped open, filled with a murderous rage. I gritted my teeth and said, word by word, you don't have the right to speak their names. My fierce gaze made him nervous, but his greed won out, and he continued to provoke me. I don't have the right? Do you? You're a terrible son. You know there's more to the story, but you don't even care about your own parents. They must be rolling in their graves. Let me tell you, you will give me that 10 million today. Otherwise, as the head of the Miller family, I will have your parents' graves moved, and you'll never be able to pay your respects to them again. With a loud crack, my fist slammed into the coffee table. The expensive, solid marble tabletop shattered into pieces. I flexed my knuckles and said calmly, that punch was meant for your head, but I didn't want to dirty my hands. I was willing to let things go, but you just had to push me. If you had been upfront about my parents from the beginning, I would have shown you some consideration out of respect for our family ties. 10 million is nothing to me, but you chose to use it as a bargaining chip to blackmail me. I, Ethan Miller, have no need for a family relationship built on schemes and manipulation. My menacing demeanor terrified Frank, and he collapsed onto the floor. What are you going to do? Don't worry. Now that I know there's more to my parents' deaths, I'll investigate it myself. As for you, embezzling company funds to pay off your gambling debts is illegal. I wonder how many years you'll get for that. Frank's face turned pale. He knew perfectly well that embezzlement was a crime, which was why he was so desperate to cover his tracks before he was exposed. Ethan, I was wrong. I shouldn't have threatened you. I was just desperate. That's why I did such a foolish thing. Please help me, nephew. I'm begging you. And with that, Frank actually got on his knees and started bowing his head to the floor. I was just trying to scare you before. I would never touch my brother's grave. I'll tell you everything about your parents right now. No need. Get out. And don't ever let me see you again. Frank left in disgrace, a stark contrast to the confident man who had arrived. But his wife and son fared even worse. Tyler had managed to infuriate Chloe and was about to be thrown out. Diane and Laura, hearing the commotion, came running. Diane, assuming I was the one kicking her son out, started screaming insults without even checking if I was there. This enraged Chloe, who ordered her guards to physically carry the mother and son out of the house and banned them from ever setting foot on the property again. After the three Millers were ejected, peace finally returned to the Hamilton estate. Chloe turned and saw me coming downstairs. You should cut ties with that cousin of yours. All he does is spread lies to slander you. It's best to keep relatives like that at a distance. You don't mind that I had them thrown out, do you? I mind very much. I put on an angry face. Throwing them out was too lenient. If it were me, I would have locked the gates and released the hounds on them first, given them a good scare before tossing them out. A smile touched Chloe's lips. All right, from now on, we'll keep a few vicious dogs. Anyone we don't like, we'll lock the gates and set the dogs on them. Her comment made me laugh, dispelling the anger Frank had stirred up in me. After I finished laughing, I asked her, besides slandering me, what else did he say? Did he mention that he was supposed to be your real fiancé, and that I'm just an imposter? The thought of having shared a sofa with Tyler disgusted Chloe so much that she called a servant and ordered them to throw it out. Then she turned to me and said earnestly, I'm very glad it was you who married into this family. Thank you for not being repulsed by a madwoman like me. That's mainly because sometimes, I can be even crazier than you. With that, I looked as if I was about to head out. Chloe looked confused. Didn't you say this morning you weren't going out today? Why are you leaving now? Something came up. I gave her a wink. If I don't leave, how are you going to get your work done in secret? How did you know? I finished my work and put the computer away before you got back yesterday. Simple. Before I left, the laptop battery was at 90%. When I came back, it was at 100%. That means someone used it for an extended period, and to make sure it didn't die, they kept it plugged in, which is why the battery was full. My work as an operative has made me exceptionally sensitive to small details. Of course, the main reason was that when I checked your pulse, it indicated you were fatigued. Chloe looked a bit guilty. Sorry, I didn't listen to your advice. Deceiving your doctor is not what a good patient does. But since you're almost fully recovered, I'll allow you to work for 2 hours. Not a minute more. My serious demeanor made her smile. Yes, dear. The word dear caught me off guard for a second, but then I relaxed. I was, after all, her husband, even if only in name. The moment I left, Chloe took out her phone and called her subordinate. Axel, I need you to run a background check on my husband. I want every detail you can find. She hadn't intended to pry into my past, but after hearing Tyler mention I had been missing for 10 years, she had to know what I had gone through during that time, what caused the nightmares that haunted me every night. It wasn't just curiosity. It was a desperate need to understand everything about me. Axel was efficient. He called back in less than 10 minutes. Ma'am, I have the information. Your husband is. I had just driven out of the Hamilton estate gates when the necklace I wore vibrated slightly. A moment later, Axel's voice came through clearly in my earpiece. The device was a standard issue communicator from my agency, normally used only for transmitting images and location data. As for why I could now hear Chloe's private conversation, I didn't have to guess. My mischievous colleague, Jackson, must have been messing with the settings again. Sure enough, his lazy voice cut in a second later. Your wife is running a background check on you. I'm giving you a live feed. You're welcome. I scoffed. Don't you have anything better to do? Slightly more than a guy who marries into a family for a living, Jackson chuckled, then switched the audio feedback. Axel continued his report. His real name is Ethan Miller. His parents died in a car crash when he was 10, after which he went missing. 3 months later, he was spotted near the Southeast Asian border, believed to be a victim of human trafficking. He was rescued by a U.S. border task force and subsequently placed under secret protection and underwent extensive training. His current status is classified. He serves as an external consultant for a special operations group. Additionally, the young man who rescued you during the charity gala kidnapping 5 years ago, the time, location, and skill set are a perfect match for your husband. There were 2 seconds of silence on the line. Then I heard Chloe's breath catch. Axel continued, there's one more thing. His father, David Miller, and his mother, Sarah Lynn, worked for subsidiaries of the Hamilton Corporation in the logistics and pharmaceutical inspection divisions, respectively. It appears they discovered a connection between Hamilton Logistics and the smuggling of miasma vine. That car crash was most likely not an accident. This time, the other end of the line went completely silent. My hands tightened on the steering wheel, my gaze darkening. 12 years. This was the confirmation I had been waiting for. Jackson's voice came back on. All right, fun's over. I've got the files ready for you. Southside Old Warehouse. Come and get them. And you were right, the real mastermind in the Hamilton family isn't Laura. It's Caleb. Olivia handles his books, and the Scott family manages the distribution. Laura is just a weapon, and a dull one at that. What about Dr. Evans? I asked. A hired dog. I've had my team compile everything, the origin of the silver needle, the miasma vine formula, all the prescription changes over the last 3 years. We also recovered a portion of your parents' dashcam footage. The final audio segment mentions, young Master Caleb. I let out a slow breath. Understood. Ethan, Jackson said, his tone unusually serious. This whole thing with Caleb, it's dirtier than you think. I'm not going to stop you from getting your revenge, but don't lose control. I replied coolly, "Don't worry. I have no intention of getting my own hands dirty." An hour later, I met Jackson's contact at the abandoned warehouse on the south side and received 2 packages. One contained the final dashcam recording and call logs from before my parents' crash. The other detailed all of Hamilton Corporation's abnormal logistics and financial flows for the past 3 years. I sat in my car, playing the fragmented audio clip over and over. First, my mother's voice, urgent. "There's something wrong with that shipment of herbs. We have to report it immediately." Then my father's, "Caleb, get out of the way. This is not something you should be involved in." Then the screech of tires. And finally, silence. I stared straight ahead, my fingers tightening around the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. No wonder my parents died. No wonder I was kidnapped in the chaos that followed. No wonder all the leads I'd chased for years had circled back to the Hamilton family. For 12 years, Caleb had been doing the Scott family's dirty work. And 3 years ago, Chloe had stumbled upon the same secret. So she went mad. No, they made her mad. By the time I returned to the Hamilton estate, it was already dark. I opened the door to our room and found Chloe sitting by the window. The main lights were off, with only a small wall lamp casting a soft glow on her. She heard me enter and slowly turned her head. Her eyes were different tonight, unnaturally quiet, unnaturally lucid. In her hand, she was holding a small, crescent-shaped jade pendant. The moment I saw it, I froze. She spoke softly. "5 years ago, during that kidnapping at the border, the person who saved me, it was you, wasn't it?" I didn't answer, just closed the door and sat down in front of her. She raised her hand and placed the jade pendant on the table, her voice trembling slightly. "That day, you carried me out of the warehouse. It was raining. You gave me your jacket, even though you'd been stabbed in the shoulder, and you lied, telling me it was just a scratch. You left in such a hurry afterward that you left this in the car. I've been looking for you for 5 years." I looked down at the pendant and felt a strange urge to smile. This woman certainly had a long memory. I reached up and took off my own necklace, from which hung the other half of the jade pendant. I placed it next to hers, and the 2 pieces fit together perfectly. Chloe's eyes instantly turned red. "So it really was me," I said, trying to sound casual. "If I'd known saving someone would get me remembered for this long, I would have left my name. We could have had kids by now." She didn't smile. She just stared at me for a long moment before asking in a low voice, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I placed the pendant back in her palm. "Because you were sick then. There would have been no point in telling you. Besides, I didn't come to the Hamilton house just for you." "For your parents?" she asked. I nodded. "And for you." She clenched her fist around the pendant, her knuckles turning white. "I know what Axel found." She looked up at me, her eyes as cold as ice. 3 years ago, I found miasma vine in a secret warehouse at Hamilton Logistics. The very next day, my medication was changed. Then Dr. Evans started giving me treatments with that needle, and I began to lose control of myself. And after that, I became the madwoman everyone talked about. "The mastermind was Caleb," I said. "Olivia managed his finances, and the Scott family provided cover. Laura might not have known the whole story, but she was definitely complicit in your imprisonment and poisoning." Chloe slowly closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were filled with pure, unadulterated killing intent. "Then let's close the net." The next day, an emergency board meeting was called at the Hamilton Corporation. The news, released by Chloe herself, stated that due to a relapse in her condition and mental instability, she was preparing to temporarily hand over management of Hamilton Logistics and the Grandview Plaza to Caleb. As expected, Caleb couldn't sit still. When I pushed Chloe into the boardroom in her wheelchair, she had deliberately made her face pale and her lips colorless, making her appear much weaker than she had been. The sight of her made Richard's face fall, and Laura even feigned wiping away tears. As for Caleb, though his words were full of concern, the greed in his eyes was impossible to hide. Dr. Evans was there too, wearing his usual mask of a refined scoundrel. "Miss Hamilton needs complete rest and should not be burdened with work," he said. "I recommend arranging for a legal guardianship as soon as possible to avoid any disruption to company business." "Legal guardianship?" I stood behind Chloe and laughed. "Dr. Evans, a quack whose treatments only make his patient crazier. You think you have the right to even suggest such a thing?" Caleb's expression darkened. "Brother-in-law, this is a board meeting, not a place for you to make a scene." I looked at his calm, polite face and found it fascinating. Some people, when they're evil, are far filthier than those who are openly villainous. Chloe lowered her eyes, deliberately rubbing her temples, and said in a weak voice, "Caleb, you handle it." At her words, the light in Caleb's eyes became almost uncontrollable. He immediately signaled for his secretary to bring the documents forward, all while feigning sincerity. "Don't worry, Chloe. I'm just taking over temporarily. When you're better, the company will be yours again. I smiled and pressed a button on a remote. The next second, the large screen in the boardroom lit up. The first video was surveillance footage from the secret warehouse, dated 3 years ago. It showed Chloe pushing open the warehouse door, only to be confronted by Caleb and his men. She was questioning him about the miasma vine, and he was smiling, a chilling, sinister smile. The second video showed Dr. Evans secretly altering prescriptions and adding miasma vine to her medicine. The third showed Mr. Wallace accepting bribes, changing locks, and restricting access to her floor. The fourth displayed the financial records detailing the transactions between Hamilton Logistics and the Scott family's private warehouses. The boardroom erupted in chaos. Caleb's face was ashen, and Dr. Evans's legs gave out, causing him to collapse into his chair. "This is impossible." Olivia shot to her feet. "This is all fabricated." "Fabricated," I said slowly. "Then what about this audio clip?" I played the final file. My mother's urgent voice filled the room, followed by my father's. "Caleb, get out of the way." Caleb's composure completely shattered. I walked towards him, my voice terrifyingly calm. 12 years ago, you killed my parents. 3 years ago, you drove my wife mad. Caleb, tell me, how should I thank you today?" He stumbled back, trying to bluff his way out. "What proof do you have that I killed anyone?" "It's just a recording." "Then I'll provide the proof for you." Chloe, who had been silent until now, suddenly stood up from her wheelchair. She walked step by step until she was in front of Caleb, her eyes like daggers. 3 years ago, in that warehouse, you said to me, "Chloe, the Hamilton Empire is too big for a woman to handle alone. You should just give it to me." That night, you were the one who had your men hold me down while Dr. Evans gave me the first injection. Caleb's pupils contracted. He had never imagined that she would not only fully recover but also retain all her memories. You've been lucid all this time? You were just pretending to be sick." Laura's voice cracked. "That's right," I chimed in with a smile. "If we didn't pretend, how else would we catch all you fish?" Just then, the boardroom doors burst open, and a team of police officers filed in. The lead officer presented his badge, his voice firm. "Caleb Hamilton, Olivia Hamilton, Dr. Evans, Mr. Wallace, you are under arrest for suspicion of assault, unlawful imprisonment, poisoning, smuggling of illegal substances, money laundering, and multiple financial crimes. Please come with us." Caleb finally snapped. He grabbed a pen from the table and lunged at Chloe, screaming, "You bitch! I made you mad 3 years ago, and I can do it again today." Before he could finish, I kicked the back of his knee. He collapsed to the ground with a thud. I pressed down on his shoulder, hitting a pressure point that sent a wave of paralyzing pain through him, contorting his face in agony. "Caleb," I said, leaning down to look him in the eye, "you'd better live a long, long time, because you're going to have to remember every single day exactly how you ended up like this." Everything that followed went more smoothly than I had anticipated. Following the trail from Caleb, the police quickly dismantled the illegal network that had connected Hamilton Logistics and the Scott family for years. To save themselves, the Scotts immediately cut ties, sacrificing Ryan and several branch family members, but the scandal was too big, and even the main family suffered a massive blow. Olivia, as Caleb's accomplice, was arrested as well. Dr. Evans lost his medical license and was disgraced. Mr. Wallace, who had abused his power for years, also ended up in prison. Big Mike, with his prior record of illegal entry and soliciting prostitutes, was immediately deported and permanently barred from the country. Laura, facing charges of unlawful imprisonment, abuse, and conspiracy to poison, tried to feign innocence at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. For once, Richard seemed to have a moment of clarity. He divorced Laura and relinquished all his managerial rights in the company. He didn't dare claim innocence. I later heard he often spent hours sitting alone at Chloe's mother's grave, perhaps finally feeling a sense of remorse. Leo was terrified at first but eventually testified honestly. Chloe didn't destroy him completely. She just sent him abroad to study, warning him that if he ever came back and caused trouble, she would break his legs. Faye, his other sister, had never been involved in the schemes and took over the company's charitable foundation, where she did quite well. As for my uncle, Frank, I didn't even have to lift a finger. Jackson's team conveniently forwarded all the evidence of his embezzlement, gambling, and theft of my inheritance to the authorities, and he was arrested the same day. Diane sold their house and cars to pay off his debts but still came up short. Tyler's fate was even worse. Having made an enemy of Ryan Scott and lost his connection to the Hamiltons, he slunk back to Cleveland in disgrace and was never heard from again. At the Grandview Plaza, Mr. Lee remained securely in his position as general manager, and the young sales associate proved to be quite capable, rising from store manager to regional director. Every time she saw me, she would get overly excited and call me Mr. Bossman, which always gave me a headache. After the dust had settled, Jackson asked if I was ready to return to active duty. I thought about it and replied, I think I'll take an extended leave of absence first. For years, my life had been nothing but investigating cases and hunting criminals. Now that all the scores were settled, I deserved a break. Besides, I had a certain troublemaker here at the Hamilton estate who had a habit of crawling into my bed at night. One evening, Chloe asked me to meet her at the glass conservatory on the top floor of the Grandview Plaza. The sunset was perfect, casting a soft, golden glow over the entire city. She stood in the center of the conservatory, fully recovered, wearing a simple white dress. She heard my footsteps and turned to look at me. I had to admit, she was even more captivating when she was sane than when she was mad. What did you call me here for? I asked, stuffing my hands in my pockets to feign nonchalance. You're not planning on getting rid of me now that you don't need me anymore, are you? I'm a very valuable asset, you know? She ignored my teasing and simply opened her hand. The crescent-shaped jade pendant lay in her palm, a perfect counterpart to the one hanging around my neck. Ethan, she said, her voice soft, I started looking for you 5 years ago. Somewhere along the way, I got lost myself. But in the end, you were the one who found me again. I felt a gentle tug at my heart, but I kept up my flippant facade. Miss Hamilton, that sounds a lot like a confession. I might get the wrong idea. It's not the wrong idea, she said, taking a step closer until she was standing right in front of me. It is a confession. For once, I was speechless. She looked up, her eyes reflecting the sunset, and me. You once asked me why I would only respect and honor you, but not love you. She paused, a small smile playing on her lips. I can answer that now. Then tell me, I said, my throat suddenly feeling tight. I love you. She enunciated each word clearly. Not as a savior, not as the son-in-law of the Hamilton family, and not as the boy I spent 5 years searching for. Just you, Ethan. I swallowed hard, but before I could speak, she reached up, hooked her fingers in my collar, and pulled me down. And one more thing, she whispered, her breath warm against my lips. I'm not giving up my husband's position. The next second, she tilted her head up and kissed me. I was stunned for a moment, then I cupped the back of her head with my hand and deepened the kiss. Outside the conservatory, the sky was ablaze with the colors of the sunset. Our intertwined silhouettes were reflected in the glass, and it felt as if all the lights of New York City had dimmed in that moment. The rest of my life was a long time, but from this moment on, I would not be alone.